Ladies and gentlemen, episode 90 of the Talkin' Shop podcast. Chopper, Flick Money, he's been with us for the last 10 or so, but what does that sound like to you? 90 episodes together.
I mean, it started, in your office with the sunflower seed eating contest, if you remember, and me being way too competitive and you being like, all right, man, if you want to do a sunflower seed, I mean, we just met, but if you want to, I don't eat sunflower seeds very fast. I kind of just savor them. But if you want to be weird about it, and I was already going, like I already jumped the gun and was like 12 seeds in. So that's where we started. And to fast forward to be here is pretty special, dude. I'm really thankful for this opportunity. And Flick Money, man, talk about making something good, great. Holy heavens.
I'm telling you what, it's been an amazing journey with you, and then bringing Flick Money on full circle.
Wow. Well, first of all, just I'm a huge fan of inspiration, and inspiri is has a Latin root meaning to infuse with life, and so I just feel inspired by both of you, the work you're doing, and because I have became a dad of two young kids during the pandemic, I think that really insulated me in some way from just how intense this conversation has gotten nationally around coaching, how we're talking to kids, mental health of the adults and kids. And so for me, it's sort of reconnecting, but I'm jumping back into the conversation at a pretty intense point. So, well, I've been equal points inspired, but also concerned, deeply concerned, and care about where we're headed. So thank you for having me. It's an honor to just be a part of anything that's medicinal in this form.
This conversation has become a necessity, and to see folks like Greg Olson and Jeff Francoeur, who have played sports at the highest level, jump into this world and notice that their kids are losing the love of the game because of parents not being educated or parents not going about it the right way. We get better as coaches and parents every time we meet. I become a better dad and a better coach when I listen to you guys chat. So let's stir it up today for episode 90 on the docket. Just a little potpourri, what everybody's up to as summer approaches. Happy Memorial Day. This past weekend, I posted on my social medias a clip that I recorded a couple years ago, but it's 535 baseball players, minor and major leaguers, lost their lives protecting our shores, 12 of which were major leaguers. So I threw that up in my stories yesterday, and I need the kids that I coach to know why they had Memorial Day off. So a huge hug, an attaboy and attagirl to all the family members of those lost. What do you got for that, boys? What do you got for Memorial Day, Chopperooski?
Yeah, super thankful for all the sacrifices that were made. No doubt about it. My father-in-law served, my brother served, my younger brother. So we take it for granted. So it is a great moment to kind of reflect and just be thankful. We're very lucky for other people's sacrifices to give us the freedom that we have.
Freedom is not free. Flick Money.
Yeah, two things jump out, Coach. One, I posted, and I'm going to speak his name, Chief Warrant Officer Clint Prather, who I grew up with every grade from second grade through my senior year of high school, lost his life in battle in Afghanistan in 2002. He was 32 years old, beautiful wife and two children. And he was the bravest kid I knew as a 7-year-old. He always just stood up for and had no problem speaking out for injustices, whether they were on the playground, in the classroom. And I was just always marveled at his bravery. And it was no great shock to me that he became such an incredible defender of freedom and the rights of people around the world to have freedom. So I always speak his name on Memorial Day with pride. And the other piece is just acknowledging that there's the suffering of the humans in Gaza, in Palestine, and the families. We're parents. I can't even imagine what that would feel like to be huddled in a tent with your child, hoping that you make it through a night, and wanting to, open my heart to their suffering, understanding in a very complicated way we're a part of the machine that's causing some of that suffering, but wanting to separate out what our soldiers sign up for and do, and foreign policy that can be questioned and should be looked at, right? That's what a democracy is all about. Let's get all the ideas in a big soup and talk about it, and we have to make hard decisions. And I think those two things can live side by side. We can have policy discussions and disagreements and still support our troops and those who have fallen, defending our right to have these discussions. I think that's important all at the same time.
Well said. And that's a bit of a segue into today's main topic, which we'll hit at the very end. And I want to hit it because I don't want to talk about it, if that makes any sense. And you are probably familiar, if you're listening to this, with PGA Tour golfer Grayson Murray, who took his own life this past weekend, and we're going to dive into it. I will say this: if this subject is triggering for you, then by all means skip this one and jump into the next episode. But I want to talk about mental health and depression, specifically in teenagers, these kids that we are coaching, because for me anyway, I'm reactive to it. I react to something that happened a couple of days ago, and I want to be more active on it. I don't want it to happen again. So we're going to talk about some warning signs. Coach Flick Money is dialed in. He's going to really lead that discussion. But mental health, we talk about it a lot on this pod. We touch on it pretty much every episode. But it's got to be priority one for us as coaches, changing lives, not changing games. So being sensitive to certain warning signs is huge. So I just want to throw that out there. If this topic is triggering, by all means, jump to the next one. But that'll be at the very end. I do want to go around the horn, boys, and discuss what we have going this summer. I'll lead off. Next week's a big week, as I'm going to bring the game of baseball to London with MLB. They know a lot about rounders. They know a lot about cricket. But I'm going to roll with play ball and MLB and run some camps before the London series. The Mets play the Phillies. Joining me will be Daniel Murphy, Mickey Morandini, Mookie Wilson, Milt Thompson, just to name a few, and they'll be decked in their Phillies and Mets uniforms, and I'll give some kids some nicknames over there and try and teach them a little bit about baseball. So I'm excited, but that means that I'll have to leave on Monday from my summer camp. So one Sean Flicky is flying down from Seattle to run week one of camp. Flick Money, what excites you about that coming on down to Orange County, California?
Coach, just like my background, I feel like we're in this cool spiral thing that's happening where it's circular, but it's also moving forward. 20 years ago, you and I were on a summer camp field together for the very first time, and I was still learning. You were brand new to it, and just to see this kind of full circle, but the progression also, how far you've brought your camps, and the way that you approach character development and joy, and the way that you're tackling mental health within the youth sports world. It's just beautiful. I'm so excited. I'm coming down with a full heart, clear eyes, and a guitar, Coach, and I can't wait to blast it out in Tustin.
It's going to be great. Excited to share some meals with you, and just hand the baton to you, and I'll rush up to LAX Monday afternoon and fly across the pond. Chopperooski there in Arizona, they don't have school this week. You've already begun. Give us a sniff of what June in Arizona's looking like, Coach.
Yeah, we're rolling with Chat Shop baseball camp.
Let's
We've
go.
got 4 weeks scheduled. Originally, we were going to do a bigger schedule, but the people have spoken, so we're consolidating to 4 weeks, and it is such a great opportunity just to breathe life into these kids. It's super rewarding, and even my coaches, like they'll come up to me like, "Hey, how do you handle this situation or this kid's acting out?" And I've learned from you guys, kids just want attention. They'll take whatever they can get, good or bad. So it's empowering my coaches for in those moments, look for that opportunity, listen more. Don't just bark orders, but just kind of like, hey, you doing okay, bud? Hey, who's your favorite superhero? Like, look for their passion. Because we know, especially in camp, oftentimes maybe mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, they were looking for a 3-hour window where they can get their kid outside with some exercise and some fresh air, but maybe baseball's not their passion. Awesome. Hey, come hang out. Let's do our best wherever we are. Let's give effort. But like what gets you excited in the morning? Like what do you like to do? And just listen. So it's such a joy. I'm challenging the kids to a random act of kindness at the end of every practice. And then I can't wait to hear what they come up with the next day. And we're having a lot of fun. So we're going to do that this week, next week, and then we pick back up July 8th through 11th, and then July 15th through the 18th. And those are going to be for the summer. And obviously sprinkled in all that, we're back to 3 nights a week for pups. And then I'm doing lessons in the morning and at night. So I'm grinding 6 days a week. I love it. It reminds me of a baseball season, a major league schedule where you're grinding every day, or in college when you got the eye black on and you've got 24 units going and a full-time job and 4 hours in the gym and you're trying to get drafted. So that's how I feel right now. I've got my 16-year-old and my 10-year-old. We are on a 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. schedule, and we're getting after it. We're going full Kobe Bryant. We're getting 2 or 3 workouts a day, plus camp, grinding, pups practice. I love it. I'm having a blast right now. Summer is for the boys.
You're getting to combine fatherhood with your amazing MLB gig. It seems
I
like
love it.
you're getting to marry the two, which is that's the perfect concoction, my man. Oh, that's awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, um, Coach Quack, who was on with us last episode, he is um, he's leading an all-star team of 9-year-olds, and I thought this would be a great topic to discuss today. Is those all-star coaches, those all-star assistant coaches, and parents, as you jump into something that's a little more high leverage, right? I mean, a trip to Williamsport could be on the line here. Wins feel like they start to matter a little bit more now as the players are more elite, and the games seem to mean a bit more. And you've got kids that they love the game. You don't have to you don't have to reel these kids in as much. They're all about it. So just giving some bullet point tips for these coaches, and then we'll talk about the parents of how to go about it. Let's start with you, Chopperoo, and then we'll go to Flick Money. You've coached some high level teams. You've coached some all-star teams. What's your advice as these all-star coaches begin their practices this week?
So it changes a little bit, right? We're in Little League, but now all of a sudden, to your point, now you've got kind of this level of athlete that is there and they're in and they really want this. So this is when it becomes so important as a coach to go process over results, to really make sure that these boys are focused on attitude,
Double down,
and effort, and being a great teammate. And when it doesn't go their way, I just talked about this with a camper today. If you don't win a moment, they don't see that next moment where they have to deal with the perceived failure of like, okay, I struck out. Can I be a great teammate? Like right now, can I right away still be a fountain through the storm? And if you can do that, you've just hit the ball out of the park in that next moment after the strikeout, if that makes sense. So these are the athletes where you can talk to them about, hey, dude, you've got a lot of skill. You are really impressive. How good can you be with your body language? This matters. You know, do you want to play baseball on TV someday? Yeah, coach. That's all I want to do. Man, I was the same way. I love that about you, that passion, let that drive you. But here's the thing. Someday there's going to be a scout and they want to see you fail. And you've got to be able to be a Hall of Famer with your attitude and your body language and being a good teammate. There was a really cool video that Tom Brady posted. I don't know if you guys saw it on one of those Instagram reels, where that's all he talked about, was like, the greatest compliment someone could give me is, man, you were a great teammate. You've got to walk differently. You've got to win differently. You've got to lose differently. You have to talk differently. You have to carry yourself off the field differently. And if you can do that, Tom Brady said, you can't fool guys in the clubhouse. They know if you're selfish or if you're not. They know if you're a great teammate or if you're not. So if we can double down all-star coaches in like, hey, how much can we grow together? And if it's going bad, can we do this as a family instead of splinter? Can we come together and knock our microphones off and still stay focused and dialed in? So
Which you did.
that's what I would say. Bang.
Bang. Well, I thought of you as video was surfacing last weekend. The Dodgers lost 5 in a row, swept by the Reds. A pitcher was really struggling, consecutive days for the Dodgers. And there was a video of Dave Roberts, friend of the pod, going out to the mound and being a savant of people, being a Dusty Baker, seeing how much this kid on the mound was beating himself up, and just hugged him, just loved him, unconditional love. Who knows what was said, but you could just tell all Doc Roberts was thinking is, how do I make sure this guy's mental health is intact, and they are going to be okay. Go watch that video. It's moving, and then go listen to the episode with Doc Roberts, because you'll get a behind the scenes, behind the curtain of where that comes from. That savant of people just knowing where that kid was, where their heart was, where his emotions were, what his mind, where his mind was at. So lots of love there. Flick Money, advice for that all-star coach as things start to feel a little more tense now.
Yeah, Coach Chop, love the high leverage opportunity to work on character and being a great teammate. That's awesome. And we've talked about this. The math that I used to teach my kids, especially in these all-star situations, is all of us want to play well individually. If we can get 12 or 13, whatever our roster size is, if we can get 13 guys focused on their teammate, that's a 12-to-1 ratio. 12 people focused on that person playing well, versus if we all just think about ourselves, if we just think about our own at-bats and our own pitching and our own defense and where we're playing, we're only going to have one person pulling for us. And what would you rather have, 12 pulling for you or one? And so just that, really trying to get kids locked into that idea. The other thing, since we're talking about mental health today, what is it? I was thinking to myself, what's a healthy expression of, like, say I strike out, right? I'm on an all-star team. I'm 10 years old. I strike out in a big spot. There is a natural, like, if you're a competitor, you're going to feel frustrated, angry at yourself, disappointed, right? Those are natural feelings to come up. So what's a healthy expression of that? And giving kids a little bit of space for that, but then how quickly can we turn it? I don't want them to be automatons where they have no expression, there's no feeling whatsoever, because like you said, Coach, that passion is, we want to celebrate that and nurture it. So, I've talked to kids, if you want to come back in the dugout, get your helmet, give your helmet a little extra push in there, give it a little, get the feeling out. But just teaching them, what we want to do is, I need to evaluate, what do I need to do better? What do I need to do different? Well, I took strike one. That was kind of a good pitch. I took a fastball for a strike. That was probably my best opportunity to hit, because once he started throwing me the Williamsport sinker after that, then I didn't have a very good at bat. So just, can we get to the learning really quickly? That's what I'm trying to get them to understand. And then the only other thing I would add, as far from the coaching side, is the tendency, well, now it's all-stars, right? So I know Coach Quack was asking, how many practices should I be having for these kids? The tendency sometimes is to think, this is so high leverage, we're going to practice 5 days a week, we're going to have two additional scrimmages, it's going to be like this all-consuming experience. And I understand that. So what I used to do is, I'd say, okay, we're going to have 2 mandatory practices a week. But for the diehards and the kids that really love it, I'm going to show up an additional couple times. I'm going to open the cages for 90 minutes, 2 other days a week. I'm going to open the bullpens. I'm going to get a couple catchers, and we're going to, anybody who's serious about improving their pitching or wants to show us that they can pitch during All-Stars, because we're going to need, Lord knows you're going to need as many pitchers as you can get during those tournaments. So just giving opportunities for optional workouts, additional skill development, and, you know, and not penalizing kids if they can't come, because lots of times the kid's also a great soccer player. Kid's also going to a football camp. His parents are going on vacation. I don't want to penalize a kid for being a kid, right? So those are optional workouts. And that way we can kind of find a middle point between psychosis and really enjoying that intense ride.
Love it. Love it. It's great. One thing I'll add is Quack called me up and said, "Hey, I want to bring these boys together. A lot of them, they don't know each other. They've played against each other, but we want to build some morale." So we had a little improv sandlot yesterday at a park. Wasn't a real baseball field, but I was able to spend 90 minutes with these kids. We found out nicknames of each kid. We played a 7-inning game in about 50 minutes, where each kid got 7 at-bats. And anytime there was an opportunity to award character and good choice, I made it a big deal. And just that little 90-minute session there of getting to know each other, and creating a community award afterwards where everybody got to vote for the person that inspired them the most with their choices. Don't sleep on that, coaches. Have a barbecue, bring all the families together, and bring those kids together. I think it's going to go a long way as the pressure starts to mount as you go deeper and deeper. So bring them together and build that culture of the better you make, the better your choices are, boys and girls, the more wins you're going to have. I promise you that. So that was a great day with that team. Anything for the parents who are excited their kid made the All-Star team? I did a post just last week for the parent that did not make the team, which is disheartening as all get out. And I've seen tears. I've heard about the tears. I've read about the tears. And I encourage you to go look at that reel that I did last week about not making it. There's grieving that is necessary, and then there's a lot of life lessons that can come from it. So it's really how you respond after that healthy bit of grieving happens. Something for the parents as we get dialed in here for All-Star season, Chaparooski.
Yeah. Mom and dad, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Make sure that you don't make it bigger than it is. If you feel like you might make it bigger than it is, just sit out in the outfield with Coach Ballgame's dad and put out a lawn chair, crack open a cherry Pepsi, and just honor your kid by celebrating him and just staying calm. This moment's going to feel a little bit bigger for moms and dads too. So breathe, think before you speak. Make sure that if you are going to say something loudly, it's going to uplift your son or his teammates or the umpires. And if you don't have anything good to say, take the medicine that we all got from grandma and grandpa. Don't say anything at all. But yeah, enjoy the ride, but keep it where it belongs. It belongs below family. It belongs below your faith. Keep baseball where it belongs, even at this level.
Yeah, I love this idea of doubling down on this message. I played All-Star at the highest level. We didn't have Little League World Series. We had Babe Ruth World Series. And I'm 11, 12 years old, and we're going to Louisiana trying to win this Babe Ruth World Series. I can't remember more than maybe 3 pitches and maybe 2 at-bats. But I remember going to that water park after Game 4 and the relationships that I made with those 11 boys. I do remember my dad coming in and saying the starting lineups and telling everybody their nickname: Action Jackson, batting first, batting second, Mickey Speed Demon Burgess. Just like the double down on the joy, double down on the character development, and just soak it up. Sit back and soak up these new families you're getting to meet, because hey, if you are competitive and your kid's a talent, you're probably going to hang out with these families a lot longer and become great friends with them. So, Flick Money, anything to add to those parents?
Yeah, just to remind them that your kids want to win. They are competitive and they are absolutely doing their best in that moment. They really do not need your additional angst, anxiety, and stress added onto their playing experience. It's not helpful. I know a part of our brain thinks if I just say this one thing, that's going to unlock the riddle of their hitting right now. But actually, when we're in game situations, Coach Chop's exactly right. It's just about praise and uplift. And then we'll take feedback and reevaluate during practice time. But we do not make adjustments or attempt to scream instructions from the stands. It's just not going to be beneficial. I promise you, your kids want to win, and they're whatever we got that day, that's what we're going to compete with. And guess what? Sometimes we have to learn how to compete and play games when we're not at our best. That's a part of the experience. We're not always at optimal peak performance every day. So can we win a 3-2 nail biter when we don't have our best stuff that day? That's a part of the kids learning. So just please resist the temptation to try to scream final instructions into a game situation. And this, the last thing I would just say is understand they're 9 or 10 or 8. Whatever mistakes they made during the regular season, they're going to make during All-Stars. Are there going to be base running mistakes? Yep. They're going to be fielding errors. Yep. Are we going to have poor pitching at times? Yep. Right. Are we going to have emotional meltdowns sometimes? Yep. They're kids. They're going to have all of those things are going to be present. Just because it's All-Stars doesn't mean that stuff stops. So back to Chopper's original point, we're bringing it full circle. Take a deep breath. Enjoy this time when they're kids, because we're never going to get this moment and these years back.
Nope. And my, oh my, how valuable are these high leverage moments when that kid steps into the box against a very competitive pitcher, and all these guys he respects are in his dugout cheering him on. He doesn't want to let the team down. How valuable is that high leverage moment? Just experiencing that when he's 21 years old and he's tempted to make bad choices, or he's 30 years old and his mental health is not in a great place, but he can lean back on this moment, this high leverage moment, and he can go, I was there, and I had a parent who brought unconditional love and joy in this high. I've been there. I've done that, and I can do that again. It's so valuable just to experience it. The win or the loss has no chance to compete with just the overall experience of that high leverage moment. So it's good. That's good stuff. Um, uh, Two more topics to hit, and I um, I want to hit this because it definitely startles me every time I get this email where there is a coach who is so toxic that they're willing to badmouth other players on the team. This specific coach, they other than their own child. And sometimes it's opposite of this, but other than their own child, there's a lot of bad mouthing. And this specific kid, just willing to almost bury them verbally and let them know you're not good enough, and you should probably go do something else. I'm paraphrasing the entire note, but I just want to speak on how do you approach this wild card, this type of coach? I usually think it's a one-off, but now I've gotten 100 of these one-offs, emails. They're all over the place. So maybe we start with Flick Money. Where does that stem from? Why is that guy acting like that? And then maybe we can go with some advice for this assistant coach who really wants to just punch him in the face, man. Like what
Yeah.
you're bad mouthing my son and other kids. You're being toxic. Where's that coming from Mr. Toxic?
Yeah, coach, this is a toughie because I remember the text you sent. The police players are 6 years old, if I recall correctly.
Right.
They have four adults on the coaching staff. And so one of the assistants is very loud and vocal to the head coach in front of everybody who should be playing, who shouldn't be playing. Why is this kid there? And we're talking about 6 year olds. So I don't want to get all self-righteous and start judging people, but it's difficult to swallow for me that we would be that way around 6 year olds. Um, I think, at the base level, why is this happening? Well, this dude is disconnected, right? He's disconnected from head and heart are not lined up. He's thinking about it like it's his fantasy team, or you watch ESPN, and that guy sucks and this guy sucks. And I can just talk about humans like that without the connection to what the impact is on the younger human. And then, you're going to get deep psychological. Or is he insecure? Probably. Why would I need to talk about then the desire, the need to even talk about 6 year olds, who is good, who isn't good, is driven by a deep insecurity that somehow this 6 year old team and where my son is a reflection on me somehow, or my community or my choices or whatever. And so, that's a sad truth of it. But how to handle it, um, this is a tough one because that desire as a parent to protect your child from all discomfort and all hurt brings out that papa bear in me, and I can see wanting to really go loud at him and confront him. I just believe in the power of, well, there's so many great teachers throughout history, spiritual teachers, who talk about the power of um, mastery of emotion. So I need to try to have a conversation with that adult in a quiet, calm place. Because if I'm coming from that fired up place, they're not going to hear me either, right? We're not going to fire leads to more fire, and now we're in a bigger explosive situation. So, coach, I loved what you said to him. I think we got to get that guy, invite him out for coffee or a beer, whatever his love language is, and ask him some questions, learn about where he's coming from, what his experience has been in the game, what lens he's looking through, and then try to criticize in that private way. Like, hey, I can just speak for me and my child, and so I know it's landing on other kids. That the way you're talking about it, I understand what you're saying. We can have conversations about playing time and lineup and such, but the way you're doing it is actually having a negative impact. And I don't think that's your desire, because we want our kids to play well. And so that's the way that you got to approach that stuff. Now, that guy might turn and say, I totally disagree. And if your kid can't handle the truth and can't handle me talking real talk to them, maybe they don't belong in this game, right? That old school, like, grow up. But if someone's that toxic, then I would honestly invite that coach and the head coach to sit down and say, these are 6 year olds developmentally. We're way off base of where we need to be, of how we're talking about them, how we're talking about playing time. These are littles. But step one, build a relationship, build some trust, try to find out more. If there's progress that can be made there, great. If not, now I'm not averse to doing a little activism work. Let's go to the head coach and let's get in a three-way conversation and see if a change needs to be made.
Yep. I'm way more willing to change my ways if the person who's asking me to change my ways hears me out first. So hear them out and build that trust there before you fight fire with more fire. I just told him, I think, as hard as it is, try to fight fire with calm here, and it might be more productive. Chopper, what do you got on this sort of thing?
So I'm really big on, and it's a little different because Little League is tricky in the sense of you just bring in guys together and you have who you have as far as coaches. But I love setting the culture of, as coaches, all that stuff happens behind closed doors, and in front of the kids, we're a united front, no matter what. Everything is rooted in love and respect. So if I have a coach who's really animated and kind of really set in his ways about talent evaluation, wonderful. Let's do that behind closed doors. Let's preset our script of the game. So, and you can even make it where you put guys where you want them. We need to rotate positions every inning, but go ahead and give me 6 innings where you would like it, and almost empower him of like, I'm going to let you set this. You're going to be my guy. I like your eye for talent. And I love what you're doing behind closed doors. Let's have these conversations. And then we just script it out. And you're even going to let the kids know where they're going. I'm going to give this to you. You're going to be the guy that tells each kid where they're going. Just make sure you're doing it in the right tone. But you're setting these lineups. So you're going to put that defense where you want it. Just allow us to have a different position every inning. But I'm going to give that to you. Preset it, hand it to me if I'm the head coach, and we'll roll that way. That's all I would add to everything. Flick Money nailed it. But I think sometimes if you can give that, it's almost like a narcissistic view. I mean, I'm analyzing without the full picture, but if you're yelling and screaming in front of 6-year-olds, there's a pretty good chance you're more concerned about you and not the kids. So let's go ahead and feed into that a tiny bit. Let's give them some authority, but then make sure that the give and take is you get some authority, but I need you to kind of honor what we're trying to do with our culture in front of the kids. That's speaking with calm tones. That's being encouraging no matter what. And being comforters in chief in game.
Man, it's so nice just talking about these topics with you guys. It is it's I've become more mature, more educated, and I'm honored. We're going to end today with a discussion on mental health and specifically depression and anxiety. If you're with a little one, if this again, if this is triggering in any way, we will not take it personal. See you at the next episode. But the reason I want to hit this topic is because I don't feel comfortable hitting this topic. I don't even feel comfortable saying the word suicide. But I I'm I believe this podcast is the perfect forum to be active and discuss why is that kid acting that way. I've seen it as young as age 8, where kids are they just seem sad. Something is very, very sad about their aura. I was talking to Mrs. Ballgame about this topic of depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and she said, depression is not a sign of weakness. It is an actual illness. If somebody comes to you and says, I have chest pain, you're not going to say, well, just try and think of happy thoughts. You're going to say, go to the doctor. You're going to say, go get some help. But especially me, Mr. Happy, pretty much all the time, who has not dealt with depression or anxiety at a high level. I've seen it in my family a lot, but I can't really relate or connect with it. It is genetic. I know that. A lot of it is just an actual illness that you have to do many things. You definitely need medication. You definitely need therapy. You need lots of things. So for us as coaches and dads, I think it's so important that we find the warning signs of these. Find the warning signs of somebody who is depressed, who is anxious. I've got a small list here, and then I'm going to pass it over to Flick Money to just get this idea that boys need to just buck up and get back on the horse. I think there's something to that, to teaching how to deal with adversity, but I need to question why is it so hard for me to talk about this topic? Why is it so hard for me to discuss what happened to Grayson Murray this past weekend? Should we talk about it on the pod? Should we not? Is it off base? Yes, we should talk about it. Enough is enough. We can't just let this continue to happen. And this young man, Grayson Murray, was very outspoken about mental health and depression leading up to it. And we've just got to continue to the the idea that we can't talk about this, or to brush that under the rug. All right, we're men, we're boys. No, man, that's not cool anymore. You know what's cool? Awareness and talking about it. And it makes me want to check in with my brothers and my family weekly and just get weird and say, how's our mental health? How you feeling today? You had any odd ideas? You had some weird things going on in your brain. Happens to me too. We got to talk about it more. So with that as kind of our setup, Flick Money, please hit me with some stats, hit me with some knowledge, brother.
Well, thank you, Coach. And I just want to salute you. I'm going to go with the bravery salute for, is it bravery the circle?
Bravery's right here, and then kindness is the circle.
Yeah, right there for heading into an area of discomfort, because that's really what this requires. And so thank you for your courage. I also want to just get out there right now that if anyone who's watching this is having thoughts of suicide or thoughts of self-harm, nationally, we've made it a lot more simple to get immediate help, just like you would call 911 in an emergency. If you call 988, you will be able to speak with a loving, caring person who's able to talk through and help you find resources. So that's 988. If you're having thoughts, or you know someone who's having thoughts of self-harm, of suicide, let's get you the help that you need from a professional, and that's critical. We are talking about an illness. Depression's an illness. Anxiety can be a symptom of a different illness, or there are anxiety disorders that are just your brain goes to high level alert when the stimulus doesn't necessarily warrant it. So that's also can be a disordered illness. I am not a licensed provider. I need to say that before I talk about this stuff. But I am in a Master of Science program to become a licensed mental health counselor. So this is an area of study for me, but not one that I am licensed yet to make any diagnoses. So please, if you hear information and you want to challenge it, please talk to a provider who's licensed, either as a mental health professional or a doctor, psychiatrist, licensed social worker. Find someone to have these conversations with. I got into mental health because one of my childhood best friends, a different best friend than we talked about earlier, took her own life in December of our senior year of high school, out of, really, from our perspective, out of nowhere. After the fact, what did we find out? She had a doctor's appointment scheduled. It was that close, and was doing an incredible job of masking it. So sometimes these people they carry it around on the inside, and you wouldn't know even if you deal with them every single day. So that happens, and that can be really shocking. There are symptoms and signs for a lot of people, however. So when we can, I think it's important to educate ourselves and look for those. So if depression is starting to hit someone, some of the really key signs, obviously, especially for young people, low energy and low mood for a persistent length of time. All teenagers or young adults are going to be moody sometimes, but if it starts to hang day after day after day, that's one of the big warning signs. Another one is if we start to not enjoy, or we start to not get pleasure out of things that we used to really enjoy or find pleasure in, whether that's a hobby, being around my friends. So if you see kids, or if you yourself notice yourself withdrawing from activities, hobbies, people, social settings. I used to enjoy going and hang out with my extended family. Now all of a sudden I'm finding excuses not to go. That's another sign, because we're social creatures. We depend on not only connections with other people, but also finding things we love to do that generally includes other people. And if we're pulling away from those things that are giving us pleasure and dopamine hits, then that's another sign that we might be depressed. Significant weight loss. or significant weight gain. It can go either way. Some of us will medicinally eat more when we're depressed. Some of us don't have it, the appetite totally disappears. So if you notice yourself going one direction or another in a major way, that's another big sign. Insomnia, not being able to sleep, or hypersomnia, which is us needing to sleep all the time. And for a lot of kids, that's how it presents. For young teenagers, young adults, is they'll just be in bed a lot and want to be in bed a lot. Their system kind of like permanently trying to reboot itself. Um, Feelings of worthlessness. I'm not good at anything. I don't matter. I'm not contributing anything. That sort of spiral. We all have thoughts along those lines, or imposter syndrome questions. But when it really kind of starts to hang around for a long period of time, um, uh, or inappropriate guilt, just level that I'm guilty, that I'm a drain on my family, or, I'm start to relive experiences, the mistakes I made, and I can't get out of those loops of feeling really guilty for my own existence. Um, Diminished ability to think or concentrate, so which a lot of us can struggle with at different times. That can be diet related, that can be sleep related. But if you just start to notice a kid just seems to, like, mid sentence, not be able to even remember where the sentence is going, and that's happening quite regularly. Or whether it's in the context of a baseball practice, they just don't seem to be able to lock in on anything that's happening. That might be a good warning sign. um, and then, thoughts about death, just wanting to talk about death, thinking about it, talking about it. Um, if you notice that that happens to be a subject that's coming up a lot for someone, then these are all signs that we could be in a major episode of depression. One thing I want to say uh, about Mr. Murray, the golfer, is that he was really battling um, a depression that was strongly correlated with substance use. So he was binge drinking or heavy drinking to try to regulate his mood or emotion. And so, just for our adults out there, if you notice yourself really leaning harder into drinks or other substances, whether that's pills, other drug use, or behaviors, gambling, sex, seeking risky behaviors, putting yourself in dangerous situations, high-speed driving consistently as a way to try to manage feelings. These are all things that can point to underlying it might be a real depression, and you deserve to be helped. We want you here. You have medicine and magic for this planet that only you have. You're the only one like you we're ever going to have. So we want you to get help. And again, I'm just going to point out 988 is a number you can call at any time, day or night, 24 hours a day, from anywhere, and get some professional help.
Well spoken, well said, Flick Money. And I want to have a longer conversation on this in the future. Bring on some therapists. Maybe it's from major league clubs or professional sports clubs that deal with this. But I specifically see in young males who are tempted to brush this under the rug. They self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. As a coach, you have got to be sensitive to the bullying. You've got to be sensitive to these kids' mental well-being. If you're all about the win, then you're not going to see this. You're not going to notice the 2 weeks where this kid has lost 14 pounds and they have not smiled. I circle back to Doc Roberts. That I thought of that. When he was hugging that pitcher on the mound, I thought, I wonder if he's had some discussions with this young man about mental health and well-being. And I think it's got to be priority one, coaches. It has to be number uno of how are these young men's mind and how are they dealing with, and in this day and age, a social media where it is easy to fall into some traps. Couple of added warning signs that I wrote down. were just literally physical aches and pains that you can have where your body is aching and just not feeling right. And then guilt, as Coach Flicky spoke about, just unwarranted guilt where you're just feeling guilty about things. And I come back to myself. I feel guilty when I have these thoughts of sadness. I feel guilty when I have to discuss these very important issues, and that's the thing we got to get rid of. We've got to create this safe space where, yeah, let's check in weekly. All right, let's not just bro out and talk about sports. How is your mental health? How's your life? How are things going? And then you can't leave these folks alone. You can't, especially if they have a track record of this. You can't just let them go on to their house, to their room by themselves. Um, I've seen it multiple times in my own family where, wow, the one person I did not think would do that did that. And I think that is extremely common in males, especially. I'm not going to discount female depression whatsoever, but I believe they're a step ahead as far as expressing it and getting out in the open for sure. So I just thought this was a good forum where it's a lot of dads and sons coaching and being men. We talk about the apology being powerful when you overreact and you apologize to kids. You know what's even more powerful is having the freedom to get deep with these kids and talk about these things. So, Chaparewski, I'll throw the mic to you. You've seen it at the young level, the high school level, all the way up to the major league level. So the mic is yours here on this.
Yeah, not being able to speak from the therapist's point of view, but from a coach's point of view. And this is why we touch on it a lot. We want to make sure the kids know that our love for them is detached from the result. And we want to try to teach them to detach themselves from the result. Find your joy and your love and your value and your identity in something other than the game of baseball. I'm a really good servant. I'm a really good son. I'm a really good friend. I'm a really good father. I'm loved. I'm loved by my creator. I'm loved by my mom and dad unconditionally. I'm loved by my spouse. I'm loved by my parents. I think that's so important as a coach. I try to go out of my way as much as I can to just talk to my kids, especially if it's not going right. My athletes are like, man, I'm so thankful to be your coach. I love coaching with you. And you know what? Yeah, you feel like you're struggling with X, Y, or Z, but guess what? Isn't that beautiful that we get to work on it? And you're not going to be on TV tomorrow. Maybe you are meant to be on TV someday, but for today, we get to work through this. And it's going to be so special when we get to the other side of what we're working on in this game, or even if it's something off the field. Look for those moments when you can just talk to kids and just really make, you know what, man, I know, man, my coach loves me. Maybe you can be that one extra component in their life as a coach that they don't give up. They don't quit. Maybe they're dealing with something that's really hard, but you know what, man, Coach Flicky loves me and he cares about me and I can't give up. So I got it. Maybe I'm going to call Coach Flicky, or maybe I'm going to call Coach Ballgame and tell them my emotion and my feeling, what I'm dealing with in this moment. And so coaches, be that additional reinforcement to the parents of like, hey, you can call me if you need something. And yeah, I'm gonna loop in mom and dad. I'm not creating a gap between mom and dad and you and me as a player. I'm working alongside mom and dad. But I love you just like mom and dad do. Not the same. No one's gonna love you more than your dad. I've talked about that with Sean Dunston. He always talked about when kids are like, man, my coach, he's like, yeah, but I wouldn't jump in front of a speeding bullet for you. Your dad would. Your dad would do that. He would lay his life down for you. So you may think your dad's hard on you. Don't forget that he would do way more for you than me as a coach. But let's try to come alongside and be that additional support and love for kids. That's more important than the game of baseball. I told a parent today, their kid came yesterday for camp, and she's like, she's actually a grandparent. The parents are not in the picture. Grandma is raising this young boy. And she's like, I'm not sure he wants to be here. And I said, that's okay. I said, guess what? We're using baseball as a vessel to to try to make sure he knows that he's loved and he matters and he brings value. And so he is in very good hands with us. Yes, we will work on baseball activity, but more importantly, I get 4 days to get to know your grandson and make sure he knows that he is fearfully and wonderfully made and that he matters. And she gave me a big hug and she said, thank you. I said, thank you. This is an incredible opportunity. So coaches, don't lose sight of that. That's the biggest thing we can do for these kids is make sure they know that they're loved, detached from the result.
Yeah, you talk about I want to be that coach that my kid 20 years ago that I coached invites me to his wedding.
Yes.
Well, you also want to be that coach when they're in a moment of darkness and loneliness. They call you, they text you. Be that coach. So look through that lens, coaches. Yeah.
Hey,
I feel
coach.
like we got to a good point, but I have absolutely Flick Money. Maybe you conclude our chat here today on this topic, and then we will dive deeper into this in future episodes. Flick Money.
Yeah, well, I was just going to loop it back to the question about the all-stars, the assistant coach who's grinding verbally on 6-year-olds and talking openly, and just wanted to point out that some of these adults that we're having a hard time with, parents hanging on the fences screaming at kids, assistant coaches or coaches who are, bringing toxic culture, you know, it doesn't necessarily align with that they're battling depression or an anxiety disorder. We don't know that to be true. However, to Coach Ballgame's point, as men, we've been trained for so long that any kind of conversation in the around vulnerability or areas of struggle is a weakness. Weakness has no place in a man's life, and so I just think this is an opportunity. This conversation is an opportunity to make connections with males in our teen culture, whether it's parents or assistant coaches, and do our best with the limited tools we have to build connections. Because I know I'm a single dad. I got 2 young kids. It's very easy to get into life and to lose connections, right? People who have been through divorces, they've lose connections with the spouse's side of the family and all the people that they built together. A lot of times you lose a lot of those connections, and that's a really difficult place to be in. Um, if your parents have passed on, maybe you were an only child or you don't have a good relationship with siblings, it's loneliness can really drive a lot of this. So, let's do our best. Let's do our best to represent unconditional love, not only for the kids, but even for the difficult adults, and maybe especially for the difficult adults. Yeah, I think that might be a good place to put a pin in it for now.
Yeah, I mean we're considered a in quotes baseball podcast, and I think in 90 episodes this is probably the most impactful and powerful conversation we've had. We didn't talk anything about batting or pitching or no baseball lingo, but I think this is coaching right here. Really getting sensitive to this, getting educated to this, and yeah, couldn't think of two better people to chat about it with. So I'm inspired. I'm going to check in with my brothers this week, with my sisters, with my parents, and my friends, and that text thread where all we talk about is humor and sports. Just say, hey, how's everybody doing? Right? I'm not doing well today. Right? Being free to say that, and being that receiver. Throwing a culture out there of, if you're not well today, I want to hear about it, and I want to talk about it, because I'm not well all the time either. So that's the kind of culture I want to start creating around me. Good. Anything else,
Let's
boys?
let's
Anything?
start here. I will just say
Yeah.
to both of you, A, I love you both. B, I am here night or day, 24 hours a day. My phone's available to you. If you just need to say, ugh, or you're having a tougher day than that, I'm here to listen And even if I don't have answers, I will be happy to be on the journey to find them with you. So thank you for being in my life and being important.
Appreciate you for leading by example, and I'll start here and say the same thing. I want to be the first to know when you have a bad day and you go doing something a little cray cray. I want to hear about it and discuss it and dig deep and go the distance with you to figure out where that's coming from, and it really matters. I look at my two daughters who will be teenagers before I know it, and you guys, parents as well. We have to create culture where they're free to talk to dad, open to talk to dad. Dad, without fear of consequence here, I need to be open and honest with you, Dad. We got to create those cultures in our house. So, this was pretty good, man. This is pretty awesome. I liked it a lot. I feel good. So, my thoughts and prayers to the Murray family. Man, there it is. But he was so adamant about getting this out in the open. He's a Carolina boy, an athlete, and we're just taught, don't worry about it. Rub some dirt on it. You're good to go. That it's got to be the both and. It's got to be all encompassing, and we've got to be sensitive to it. So, love you, boys, and I will rake most definitely today, and let's do this a few times over the summer too. What do you say?
I'm in. Let's do it. Yeah, I'm in. I want to be the tertiary. I'm in. I love you guys, and I'm in. If you need anything, we've got the text thread. Yeah, anything y'all need. Sometimes they say behind every strong dude, there's an incredible woman. Well, we have our wives, but we also have each other. Let's be the backbone for each other too. Love you guys.
Awesome.
Rake, everybody. Bang.
Bye-bye.